Okay, I think we'll get started with the introduction, seeing as you guys know who we are already, I think. This one, our masterclass today is all around voice search. You guys both know Mr. Buxley, the other name on the screen there, looking all professional in front of his Gumtree background. Buxley's got over 11 years of digital experience and joined us as our head of performance. He's worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, the likes of eBay, the UN, MSF, which is Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, ASDA, Compare the Market, Procter & Gamble, a whole lot more. His previous roles have included head of search, performance director for an award-winning search agency, and he was also the head search tutor for the University of Cape Town. So we believe he knows what he's talking about, hopefully. Hopefully he's going to tell you why you're here today, all to do with voice search. It's the second in our Google Masterclass series. We will be making the webinar recordings available to all attendees, usually about a week to 2 weeks after each webinar. So if anyone has to dash off or get interrupted by calls or anything like that, just let me know and we'll get the link across to you as soon as we can. Hopefully we'll get through this in about 45 minutes or so, I think. And then there'll be 10-15 minutes at the end for any questions. Please use the Q&A section or the chat area in Zoom to note any of your questions down, and I'll make sure that we get through them all during the wrap-up phase. And I'll ask Bucks to take it away.
Thank you, Zoe. So we are here today ultimately to talk about something that we all use, or the stats say that we use. We're talking about voice search. Voice search in itself is a bit confusing. So in order for us to do voice search, we need to make sure that we have some level of search engine optimization done on a page, either through a technical level or through a content level as well. Just looking at the statistics of global audience, 27% of online users are using voice search on mobile globally. So it gives us an indication there are millions of people which is currently using voice search. Now, let's try to understand and explain what voice search is. So in simple terms, voice search optimizes the content, keywords, metadata, and more to enable your voice search result to be displayed to users. So whenever a user asks a question, you would get a result that would give you your answer in the voice search. Now, voice search has become more prominent and become more dominant because of smart speakers. Smart speakers has given us the ability to have an interaction with either Amazon, Google, Siri. There are many services out there, but the global adoption of smart speakers has given us the ability to do voice search for menial tasks. The smart speaker usage is estimated to grow by approximately 48% to meet the needs of 76 million users within 2020. 48% growth to meet the needs of 76 million users within this year. 54% of all smart speaker owners are women, and then nearly 50% of people who own a smart speaker either own 2 or more of these devices. People are increasingly using voice search to search for local products and services. According to some statistics, 58% of people have used voice search while finding information about a local business. People are looking at more types of smart speakers to integrate into smart homes and for information that would help them determine answers for either menial or very complex questions. Now, we know a bit about voice search, but do we understand or know how to optimize for voice search? Before we get into that, we need to understand what's behind voice search. Behind voice search is an acronym, it stands NLS, which ultimately stands for Natural Language Search. Now, in our first feast, Google is looking at organizing the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Natural language search allows Google to understand more of what the context behind it would be. So if you want to know how tall Big Ben is, a keyword-based search query for that information might be Big Ben height, and you'll get the information served to you. Natural language search looks more at how you would phrase the query. So how tall is Big Ben? Now, this might seem like something small, but this gives us an indication of how advanced and how far search engines have come to know the context behind what you are asking. With natural language search, it's important for us to understand also how we can get NLS and how Google or search engines use NLS. Now, recently, with 2019, Google rolled out an algorithm, and the algorithm for your NLS, natural language search, is BERT. And when they launched this algorithm, they said it will impact 10% of searches globally. Now, to you and I, 10% might not seem a lot, but when you are doing billions of queries on a monthly, daily basis, you have a large portion of that 10%. So with BERT, it's likely to have some impact on your brand's organic visibility and traffic as well. Now, to understand BERT, BERT is an acronym which stands for Biodirectional Encoder Representations from Transformers. Ultimately, BERT is a neural network-based technique for natural language processing pre-training. What? I know the feeling. In plain English, it can be BERT can be used to help Google better discern the context of words within search queries. So BERT, as part of Google's entire algorithm, helps to understand and discern the context of words within search queries. Now, looking at advancements within NLP, it has given us the opportunity to look at social listening tools where they can understand the context of what that user is searching for and give them an automated response. The same with chatbots. NLP helps understand exactly what that user's query is. And within our smartphones, within those word suggestions, as you're busy typing away and you get an autofill, that ultimately is NLP. Now, saying natural language, it's more about understanding that NLP is not a new feature for search engines at all. They've been looking and processing this for a while, but the big difference between BERT, it represents the advancement in NLP through biodirectional training. Now, when looking at how we would be able to see it in real time. If we're going parking on a hill with no curb, on the left, that was before BERT, and then on the right, this is after BERT. Google compares the featured snippets for the query, explaining in the past a query like this would confuse the Google systems, but they place too much importance on a particular word being curb and ignored the word no, not understanding how critical that word was to responding to that user's query. So they returned results for parking on a hill with a curb, and after BERT, now they can understand the context of it and give the user exactly what the user was searching for. Now, when a user conducts a query on the Google Assistant, this can be influenced by BERT, reflecting how those results would look and ultimately would sound like. Now, for voice search optimization forms part of your SEO strategy, forms part of making sure that your SEO is updated. Going through some of those optimization guidelines, we'll cover what the long tail SEO is, schema markup, how content influences mobile optimization and website speed. All of these are particular factors that influence your voice search. So people have been using the long tail keywords for a long time and seeing brilliant results within search rankings. And this is mainly due to those longer tail searches having more user intent behind them. And it would be a good idea to use long tail keywords to optimize for voice search within a website. There is statistics that is out there that states 70% of all web searches is long tail keywords. Some of those keywords can be found by using a third-party tool like Ubersuggest. Ubersuggest would give you an idea of those long tail keywords and would give you an indication of similar types of keywords. Structured data, or schema, as people would know it, is actually two different things. So structured data is any code within your HTML that provides hints to let search engines understand and classify page content, as well as information about the publisher's entity. The schema markup is structured data that has a standardized set of defined values and classes. The schema markup as a standardized structured data vocabulary is the result of schema.org. Schema.org is a joint effort between Google, Bing, Yahoo, and Yandex. What schema.org does is it gives us a reference point for what search engines look for that we can then use within our website. Now, the average click-through rate for featured snippets is quite high. So no featured snippet, 26% of all clicks go to the first URL, and this is niche dependent and also query dependent. And then with a featured snippet in that search result, 8.6% of the clicks go to the featured snippet, and then 19.6% of clicks go to the natural search result that is just below the featured snippet. Now, some more examples of how that would look and how schema markup would be influenced. within your website, your organizational schema, you would set out particular profiles that can show up. Your organizational schema gives search engines an indication of what information that organization is about and where other profiles sit within them. One of the most popular ones that we always look at is the schema markup for websites with particular questions that users might have when they are searching for a company. Schema markup gives us the ability to add in these questions that helps users ease their journey online and with our brand as well. Now, the next bit is looking at how schema can add in a rating or a review. So the one above for Amazon has no schema appended to it. The one below has a rating and it has votes. It's showcasing within the search engine results page more credibility, which will ultimately lead to more clicks. Always optimize for a user, and Google will see that and reward you. So this next bit might be a bit technical in nature. This is more for your IT team, or you can speak to your agency for assistance. But encoding schema markup, ultimately what is microdata and JSON LD. So looking within microdata, this would be an example of how it would be implemented. This is something that can be done fairly easily if you know sort of how to do it. I would always refer to item scopes and item props. This is part of that schema.org. And microdata encoding was originally promoted by schema.org. The precursor to schema.org was RDFA, but because of the RDFA complexity, you would need a heightened level to understand and implement. The microdata has similar or many elements that is likened to RDFA. Its notation system can be used throughout the HTML code, and this is mainly used within HTML code of the body tag. In saying that, there are ways that you can implement schema markup while using Google Tag Manager. We'll get into that later. And then this is an example of how a flight reservation email markup would look within JSON LD. It's easier to use since all the schema vocabulary used for JSON LD can be placed within your HTML code, within the script tag, rather than scattered throughout the HTML. This helps with organization and accuracy, and is a big reason why both schema.org and Google are currently endorsing it. Another benefit is that Google can read any JSON LD you happen to have embedded within your page's JavaScript element, or if you're running some CMSs within particular widgets as well. So just to understand why is schema so important to voice search ultimately? Number one, improve search engines' ability to crawl your site. So with schema, you'll be telling search engines exactly what's on your page. This process helps display information that is easy to showcase to a user via search and voice. Number two, it increases your site's visibility within those search pages. So schema markup adds more information to your organic results, making it more visible, attractive, and more engaging to users. Schema boosts your SEO because users are more likely to click on your result than one without Schema Markup. With more clicks, you'll rank higher in search results, generally speaking. And then number 3, it would boost your visitors' user experience. So that extra bit of information allows users to make more informed decisions. So you'll be getting more qualified traffic, which will result in boosting conversions or achieving goals. So how would we boost traffic using Schema? Ultimately, the first step we need to do is look at our structured dating testing tool. There's reasons for this. It helps you identify the Schema markup you already have on the page, if you have any. It suggests Schema markup that would be useful for your page. And if you do have Schema markup on that particular page, it will point out errors within your Schema markup so that you can become more compliant within Google and schema.org. Testing your page gives you an idea of what kind of markup would be beneficial to add, especially where you sort of don't know where to start. Would be a good starting point. The next one is Google Structured Data Markup Helper. Just doing a quick little Google, you'll be able to find the link. This is a useful tool that will help code your Schema markup for you. Yes, it will help you code in that Schema markup. With it, you can choose to add Schema to a website. You can also add Schema markup to an email. And then you'll first want to either your page's URL, input the URL, or you can input the HTML code as an example if you want to do an emailer. You'll also want to identify what type of content is on that page. And then once you have that sort of selected and input, you click Start Tagging. So you might be thinking, oh, okay, that's it, Schema markup. If I've got Schema markup, fantastic, I can tag those pages. It will show up in a featured snippet. Somebody does a voice search, done, we're good to go. Unfortunately not. There are a few more things that we need to look at. The next steps in the evolution would ultimately look at content. So you would need to curate content that gives direct answers. Most of the people who do voice search is generally looking for an answer to a particular question. And looking at how those are shown within Google, the type of snippet. Generally, paragraph snippets make up the most of them. List or bullets numbered would be second with 10%. And then particularly with table snippets, if you're looking for a particular recipe, you'll generally see a table that is, or if you're looking for the calories within a particular item, it will give you a table. So looking a bit more into featured snippet questions and trying to understand how you can optimize, you would generally look at how people are searching and break it out into types of questions, and that would prompt the type of content that you will create. So how much will cloud storage cost, as an example? Can cloud storage be hacked? Is cloud storage secure? What cloud storage is HIPAA compliant? There is examples of how you can optimize and look for those particular keyword sets that will help you generate more content that answers users directly. However, make sure that you write great content that is valuable to your target audience. You have to create content that will satisfy that user's need, but in the same time, increase the chances of you appearing within featured snippets. There is a particular growth in questions or phrases year over year, and this plays itself more into who, what, when, where, why, and how. You can break out more or further questions around those particular topics or themes. And then the holy grail of SEO voice search is generally working around an FAQ. Voice search results, 2.68%, and that will increase year on year, gives results within FAQ pages, and the same with desktop results, 1.54% would give you results which are FAQ pages. FAQ pages is one of the more important pages that you would need to optimize, especially if you are generating or using the schema.org. Just a slight example of what happens when you get that featured snippet, where you get that rich answer. The amount of traffic will significantly increase, as will your impressions, as will your brand awareness. It's a good thing to start with. So looking at some of those examples of those featured snippets, this would be categorized as a list, how to be awesome, and then it starts working its way down. How to be awesome, number 1, work at the escape, number 2, sign up for more feasts, etc., etc. And looking at how we can capitalize, we need to look at what Google perceives as being an authority. We need to look and see how we can optimize our web pages to get it indexed better. And Google is all about their user, not our website or our brand or our URL. Google is more interested about their user, and one of Google's main missions is mobile first. The next step in there is looking at making your website mobile optimized. One of the tools you can see and look at is a tool called gtmetrics.com. This will give you an indication or a scoring of where and how your website is performing. There is also a free Google tool, which is the mobile friendly test. Now, while we are busy doing and benchmarking and seeing where our website is, you have to take it also with some, with a grain of salt. This is Google's result in the mobile friendly test. And whilst the page is mobile friendly, we still get errors for google.com where the page is partially loaded. So while we are doing testing, just note that there are some things that's more important than others, and you want to make sure that your website, number 1, gives you, within the mobile friendly test, that will give you the page is mobile friendly. That green bit is one of the most important ones you need to look at. Also looking at a few of the tools, if you're looking at where you are, if you're looking at where exactly you show up within featured snippets, we use a tool called SEMrush, which is one of the industry leaders within monitoring. You can speak to us if you would like a full report that will give you an indication of where those featured snippets are. We also look at competitors and then build out what competitors are ranking for, where they show up in featured snippets, and try to find an indication of where they are not, so that we can produce content that will target users more frequently and easily as well. There are a few tips. Use a CDN, content delivery network. What this does, it helps and it speeds up your website. It hosts those images and then serves it to a user based on location. Optimize image sizes. Please make sure that your images are not 1 meg, 2 meg, 10 meg big. You want to make sure that those images are as small and compressed as possible. This will help you get more out of your website and also website speed. More advanced is to use website caching. This is, in layman's terms, it would be taking a photo of your website and then saving it within your server, so that somebody coming to the website, they get that information quicker. And then one of the most important ones that I've seen constantly is the number of server requests. This is where you have quite a few scripts, where you have quite a few third-party scripts like your Facebook pixel, LinkedIn, share this, etc., etc. Those ultimately would do requests, and then based on those requests will ultimately slow your website down. And it's one of the reasons why you would use Google Tag Manager to sort of put all of your scripts into one basket, serve that up, and you're limiting the amount of scripts ultimately. Within an easy way, voice search is ultimately convenient. It's straightforward to use. It's one of those things that it's gaining popularity among online users. But unless you optimize your voice search for SEO, users will not be able to find your content at all. Implementing all of the steps will help optimize your website for voice search and optimize your website for voice search SEO. These or those ideas ultimately is ones that is tried, tested, it works. Once you start building out your content, that will give you an indication of where your users are coming from, and you do the research and competitor research, you'll be able to get a better understanding. And then also, when you optimize your website for voice search, you'll be optimizing your website in general anyway. And it will only benefit you to either get more traffic, you can rank higher, you can attract more users to your domain and to your brand, and it will help you ultimately. So just an indication, voice search, the result that you get is ultimately a featured snippet, and it's the top featured snippet that uses Schema Markup to display that featured snippet in Google, which results in the result, which results in that voice search result. Let me say again. The featured snippet is the voice search. Schema.org is the one that generates the result for Google to put it within the search engine results page that gives you your voice prompt. SEO is your foundation. Without proper SEO, you wouldn't be able to rank. You wouldn't be able to get those users. You wouldn't be able to get the optimization levels for voice search. Top 5 things. SEO is your foundation. Mobile optimized websites are better for business, hands down. Schema is voice search. And then understanding Google helps you understand how to maximize your digital efforts for a greater ROI on marketing and your digital spend. And the last one is that the escape is here to help you.
Very, very true. And just a reminder again, I think some of today's attendees have already registered for the balance of our other feasts that are happening, our Thursday Google Masterclass series. So just a recap or a reminder. The next one's in order. We've got Google Ads next week. Thereafter, we've got a Google My Business review, looking at some of the more technical stuff towards the end. So Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, the ins and outs of that. And then taking you finally through how you actually get sight and visibility on all of these kind of things through Data Studio and through various dashboards that help you understand if what you're deploying across all these various Google efforts is actually helping your business or not based on your objectives. So that's kind of the last one. On to some questions. We've got a couple of questions here from Emma. So one of the questions we've got is relating to Schema. How do you find out the most popular questions that people are asking Google relating to your business so that you can adapt your website and appear in the results of those questions? So it's a bit like keyword research, but is there a way to do question research?
Yes, there are. There are third-party tools that is out there. One of those third-party tools is the SEMrush is one of those third-party tools. There is another few tools where you can do question research ultimately. The one that we particularly use or like is the Uber Suggest and SEMrush. It will give you an indication of what people are searching for within your niche itself.
And do you typically, Bucks, would there be a way where you're looking at Uber Suggest and SEMrush as well as looking at your organic keyword research? So do you look at them together when you're trying to determine that? Because whatever's being answered in terms of questions would probably mirror the sort of content you would want to be producing on an ongoing basis as well for your website blog or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So one of the tools that you would use, you would break out your search console, non-branded search, and you would also look at what types of questions people are asking where you are showing for an impression. Because as soon as you show for an impression, you'd be able to see exactly what people are searching for, but they're not necessarily clicking on. That will give you a way forward that you can start with. The first step, the first start is going to be your FAQ page. You need to make sure that you have one set up with all the common questions and direct answers. That would give you a way of starting and then doing measurement on that afterwards as well.
Perfect, thank you. And then the next one we've got here is, do you have any idea or stats about how people might use voice search, particularly in relation to charity inquiries, which is obviously Emma's background? So if so, what kind of queries would those be? Charity shop locations, what charities to donate to, etc. Would there be any data that we could sort of point them to help them understand that kind of view on charity questions being asked?
Yeah, there is a white paper that is available that we'll share over to Emma that will give a better understanding of how to attract users. This would predominantly work around causes and also work around how you can attract the right user to your website based on simple questions. But we would do the keyword research on that, pull it out, and then give a list ultimately that says these are the top questions within your niche. This is the white paper that assists with that, and then help build that out.
Cool, thank you. There was a game, I'm not sure if Bucks will remember it, that he introduced me to a long time ago, which was trying to understand voice search. And he said he would give me a scenario and say to me that I don't have access to my phone and I don't have access to a computer, so I can't go and physically type the question into Google. So it's a bit like playing 20 questions. If someone said to you, right, you have to go and find a hairdresser in Basingstoke on a Sunday, what questions do you need to ask in order to find your way there? And you find yourself starting to write things down, like, okay, find me a hairdresser in Basingstoke. Is it open on a Sunday? What time is it open? Does it accept men and women haircuts? And you can start sort of playing common sense, general sense questions yourself as well to kind of brainstorm initial questions that people might be asking.
So some of those you'll start breaking out into your first category, which would be, what do I have to offer? So you need to ask yourself what your business has to offer, what is your key selling points, what makes you stand out ahead of other businesses or charities in some instances. And then also going one step further is what you want to accomplish. So what action would you like that particular customer to take? When should they take that? And then how do you want your customers or donatees to feel about those offering? And then it goes one step further, which is who are your customers? What are your customers' needs, or what are your customers' values? And then what is your customers' circumstances as well? It will give you some sort of indication of how you need to answer those questions.
Perfect, thank you. We've got one more question. I'm hoping everyone will hear me because our garden service have just showed up outside of our offices and they're currently weed trimming the border. So I can hear it. I hope nobody else can hear it. One question we've got here from Daniel is, how does a voice search query show up in your Google Analytics? Does it show up as referral, or do they look for it under source or medium? So is there a way that brands can see this in their Google Analytics?
It shows up in not provided, Dan.
Lovely, gotta love Google for being so helpful.
Yeah, those third-party sources and Search Console will give you an indication and a benchmark of where you show up for those particular queries, and will generate those queries as well.
So maybe what we can make sure we do in the Google Analytics and the Data Studio section is we'll include a little tip in terms of people that might not know where they can identify and find that kind of data. If they're trying to trace that, we'll make sure we include that in the upcoming feasts as well, to confirm where that shows up for people.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, that was a nicely done, just on the 45-minute or so mark, feast all about voice search. If there are any other questions, please pop them over to us directly on email. As per usual, anyone that is registered for any of our feasts is more than welcome to book a one-to-one chat with Buxy. Please email me directly. If you've got my email, it's zoe.pedersen@the-escape. Or you can also send through a booking request ideas at the-escape.co.uk. And those are complimentary hour calls to take you through anything specific that we've either covered today, or just stuff that's general to Google and search and all those kind of good things. And if you haven't already registered, sign up for the next upcoming feast. You'll find us all on Eventbrite.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Bucks. If there's any other questions, pop them in the chat. If not, thank you very much for joining today's masterclass.